Welcome to the Artful Teaching Podcast, where teachers are brought out of isolation and into conversation. We're your hosts, Callie Phlox.
And I'm Heather Francis. In an era where educators experience mounting pressure to set the arts aside, we work to increase the quality and quantity of arts education in Utah schools, including dance, drama, music, visual arts, media, and literary arts.
We spotlight professional educators as artists and leaders to examine how the arts deepen student learning and improve school culture. We are excited to present their perspective on the art of teaching. We're glad you've joined us. Welcome to Artful Teaching. I'm Callie Phlox. This is the first episode in our series exploring teachers' response to COVID-19. This pandemic has turned classrooms upside down with unpredictable closures, tedious cleaning procedures, and many safety precautions, including stationary desks in rows and lots of hand washing. I'm here with Heidi Dimmick, third grade teacher in Utah County, to discuss her experience and the strategies she's used to respond to the COVID chaos. Heidi integrates visual and performing arts in her classroom, which she believes reduces stress for her students. Hi, Heidi. Glad you're here.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
So how are things going this year for you?
Good. Well, kind of exhausting, but good in the same breath.
Tell us what's different this year.
There's a lot more rules this year. The rules I find exhausting. The wearing the mask, the spacing of the kids, the contact tracing, we can't, in our small group reading instruction, they can't be together for more than 15 minutes. And so having to set the timer, and sometimes you get into these really amazing conversations with kids and the timer goes off and you have to be done, but you're not really done. And so those kinds of things have been that's been the challenging part of things.
So what does that look like in your classroom? Describe to me what's different in your room this year and last year. What did it look like?
So last year, I love having kids in groups together and they can talk to each other and help each other. And when we first started the year, I had all these individual desks lined up. Like if you look at like a 1950s picture of like all these separate desks, that's what my classroom was, which was so different than how my classroom regularly is. Because I want the kids talking. I want them enjoying each other. I want them learning from each other. Even shared supplies. Before if we were going to do an art project, I could just put something out on the whole table. And now each kid needs to have their individual supplies and they have to be quarantined for 48 hours after they've touched the supplies before another kid can use them and those kinds of things. And I'm a gatherer of kids. Come sit around me, come be around me. And we haven't gotten to do that this year. And that's been a real adjustment in my teaching of how do you make that closeness and that connection when we can't physically be close and connected with each other?
So how do you do that? What's your answer?
I really, really feel like it comes down to the individual relationships that I, as a teacher, make with the kids. In years past, I've been concerned about where they are academically and how much progress we're making and where we're moving. And I have just spent this whole first term helping these kids to know that I am there for them, that I love them, that I care about them, and that even if things get a little crazy in their lives, that doesn't change, that I'm a consistent for them. And I have found that the kids are opening up and sharing like they would have before. It just has taken a lot more time to build those relationships.
How have you compensated for that? Are there specific strategies you use to nurture those relationships each day?
When we come in, I get busy. I am like a get her done kind of person. Like I've got my checklist. I need to get that checklist done. It's how I feel successful. And I just spend the first 10 or 15 minutes when I normally would be doing some reteaching work or something else. I just pull one or two or three kids and talk with them individually, like, what's going on? What do you want me to know about? How are you feeling about things, right? Because there's a lot of fear. There's a lot of unknown for kids. Like if we think about it as adults, how we're feeling right now, that unease that we're feeling, the stress that we're feeling, we have the vocabulary to talk to each other about what we're feeling. And I've found with my third graders, they don't always have that vocabulary. They're describing how they're feeling. I'm like, oh, like mixed emotions. The idea for the kids that they could have two different feelings at once has been really powerful this year. Like, you can be excited, and if you still feel a little scared, that's okay, but we're going to move forward with that excitement. And every kid needs a different amount of time.
That's a lot of social and emotional learning that you just described. It takes a sophisticated person to say, I'm feeling two things. Which one am I going to choose to respond to in this moment? I've watched your teaching and the results of your teaching, and I think that you have a great ability for social and emotional learning. Are there other strategies that you have come into to help students be more aware of their emotions? That's a great one to say, well, which emotion are you going to choose right now? What else have you done?
We've actually done lessons on stress this year. I've never talked with my third graders about stress. And so we've talked about like ways we can lower their stress and ways we can reduce their stress. And every kid made a little toolbox, and they chose the things that spoke to them of what they could do when they were feeling overwhelmed. And during the day, if they pull out their toolbox, they can take a break from whatever they're doing. They'll know that eventually I will come and check up on them at sometime during the day. That's them saying, like, Mrs. Dimmick, I need you. And I can't always be right there, right at that moment. But giving them those skills of, yep, you can be stressed and you can be overwhelmed, giving them power. I think that is what it really has come down to. I feel the need to empower these kids that they can speak for themselves. So, and then we've done a lot of mindfulness this year. And I've gotten out the drums a lot this year because some kids are just angry. And so they just need to bang on something, and then we can like go on with our lesson. But there's just a lot of little clues or little things that in years past I may have let go, that this year I'm trying to be very mindful of stopping and giving the kids the moment that they need.
When have you been empowered this year? When do you feel trapped and confined by all those rules? What opportunities are there that make you feel empowered?
We have a new principal at my school this year, and I have been so impressed with his attitude about things. For instance, we had a faculty meeting this morning, and we just finished our SCP conferences, and you're always nervous about what parents are going to say. And he took the first 10 minutes of the faculty meeting to just talk about the great things we're doing for kids. Like, one day I was running around and he just looked at me and he was like, Heidi, it's okay. You can just let that go. Giving me permission, because I am one of those list people. I am one of those, okay, if you told me you wanted me to do it, let me check that box. Him saying over and over again, like, it's okay. You just don't have to do that. Do what you need to get this done. And then you just go build relationships with these kids.
What have you seen be the result of that choice?
As a faculty, I think we're probably one of the least stressed faculties that I have been around or talked to, because when he lowers that stress level, it lowers it for everyone. And then I have a really, really good team, a really experienced team. I've always taught with interns or brand new teachers. And this is the first year I've ever taught with like a veteran team, that everyone was a career educator. And there is power in them throwing out ideas I never thought we could do, because I've always been so busy teaching other teachers how to teach. And so that has been just so validating and fulfilling this year, of not feeling like I have to pull the whole load, that I have a team that we're all pulling together for these kids.
You talked about giving the kids power and a voice and helping them be in charge. And you have a principal who has done that for you and for the rest of the faculty, it sounds like.
I don't even have quite the words to describe it. It takes what is a really stressful and overwhelming situation, and it makes you feel like, okay, I can do one more day. And let's be honest, teaching this year has been like that sometimes. Like, okay, I need to get through today. And teaching's never been like that for me. So it's been even with all the great things going on, there's been some really struggling moments as well.
In the arts integration endorsement class, where you and I get to meet with wonderful teachers every Wednesday night, there are nights when those teachers talk about how many days they've cried and how many days it's been so overwhelming they've given up in tears. Have there been any circumstances or days where it felt overwhelming and you're reduced to tears?
Yeah, I've had a few of those days. So with this group I'm teaching now, there is more of a gap than I've ever seen before between those who had really supportive home experiences during our at-home learning and those that didn't. And I had one kid, and he just is struggling, and we're just struggling together, and it's been really hard. And he had a really bad day, and he hid and ran away, and I ended up in my principal's office, and I was like, it's too much. It's too much. And that doesn't happen very often when I'm teaching. But there have been a few days this year that I said to my husband the other night, I've never really thought about quitting. Like, I knew I wanted to be a teacher when I was a second grader. And I have never doubted that that is what my mission in life is to be. I said, but I am serious. I'm done. I just can't do it. The wearing the masks, the not being able to see the kids' faces, the not being able to read them, the not being able to hug them, and especially when they need it. And I may have broken that hugging rule, and these kids are facing things at home this year because parents were at home together, spent a lot of time together, and they're facing some really heartbreaking experiences. And so sometimes you just need someone to cry with you. And so there have been days with those kids that I have just sat down and we've just cried because I don't know what else to do, because there's sometimes you just can't fix things for them.
Families are truly struggling right now, aren't they?
Yeah, they are.
So what's in your stress reduction toolbox?
Talking. I'm a talker. So if I can talk to people, it makes me feel better about things. I don't need anyone to solve anything. I just need to be listened to and validated. Watercoloring I like to do. I like to walk. Bubble baths. I like to take a good bubble bath. And I really have started giving myself grace. I think for years I may have used that expression like, oh, just give yourself some grace. I don't know that I really understood what that meant until this year. Because like I said, I am get things done. And so to just say, that's not going to get done, and that's okay. And that doesn't change who I am or what kind of teacher I am or what kind of person I am, because what I have is good enough.
So you said some honest things to your husband the other night about the reality of this situation and how hard it is. Who else needs to hear that message about the challenges teachers are having right now?
I think parents need to. If there's anything I could say to those parents, I would say just be kind, right? I think that because everyone is stressed out now, sometimes interactions with teachers are not as kind as they should be. I also think some administrators, like I have a really good administrator, but not everyone is in that situation. And people that keep making decisions, like at the state level, like just make a decision and live with it, or come to a school and actually see how these choices you're making, like I think sometimes they just think, oh, we'll just have them do this one little thing, and it's only one little thing, but those things just build and build and build. And when teachers are already stressed and stretched, one more thing sometimes is that one thing too many.
Do you have any specifics of that you'd like the leaders at the state or parents to know?
Now I'm at the point that I nothing like sticks out, but when we first started the school year, the amount of time that we were given to prepare to get things ready, I didn't know my full plan until I was back at school. And then parents were like, well, you had all summer to prepare and be ready for this. Well, no, I actually didn't have all summer, because in my heart, I was just praying and hoping we would just be back together. And I don't get to make decisions at the district level, the 45 minutes out early, which my school gets out 45 minutes every day, so we can help the kids that are in quarantine or sick for any reason. And I love that they are thoughtful and caring enough that they gave us that 45 minutes, but then they also took away 45 minutes of instruction for kids that need it. I just don't feel like a lot of teacher input is heard in a lot of those situations.
Yeah.
Or it's decisions that are made by teachers who haven't taught in the classroom for 15 years.
So you mentioned that the drums really helped the kids, and I know you and your family do karate. How has your karate helped you?
It's been really good. Just having a physical outlet for those feelings sometimes has been a really positive experience for the kids. It's also one of those, because we're all black belts together, we have something that we had already done as a family that joined us. And so we knew going into all of our shutdown and stuff, we knew we were tight as a family and we knew how to take care of each other and watch out for each other. And then with our Taekwondo, we do a lot of mindfulness. We do mindfulness at school and we do mindfulness at home and we do mindfulness in Taekwondo. When you hear that same thing over and over again, eventually it like sticks.
That's great. So I want to go back to a previous conversation that you were talking about the day you ended up in your principal's office with this boy who was running away and disappearing and that overwhelm. And I'm curious, what kind of help did you get? How did that situation resolve?
We have a skills person that hunted him down and found him, and someone went and covered my classroom for a few minutes because that's really just what I needed. I just needed to breathe for a few minutes. And then my principal just listened, and he didn't try to fix it. He just listened, and he just said, like, "You're doing great. Sorry. You're doing great. These kids are blessed to have you. And if anyone needs you, it's him."
I also heard some strategies in the trauma sensitive schools movement. They talk about specific tools for teachers that in a trauma school, a teacher can take a timeout anytime they need it. They call the office, "I need a 20-minute timeout," and somebody comes and covers their classroom. And that timeout for the teacher is a huge intervention piece. So the fact that you had a principal you could go to, you had an office person to cover your class, you had a resource person to come in and help the student, those are indicators that your school was ready to handle a trauma or crisis kind of situation. And you got the support you needed. Someone found the student and gave him the support that he needed. And that's a lot of very careful pre-planning and evidence of a system that's functioning. And those were three pieces that were there for you in that moment. That's nice to hear. Do you have some other specific examples of things that worked this year?
Yes. I have this student, and he's new to the school, and he has some anxiety. And like to the point that the first day of school, I found him in the coat room crying. And he has struggled coming to school. The mom says that it's been years that he has struggled coming to school. And we were talking about mental health. And we were talking about how sometimes our brains don't talk to us very kindly. And this is when I knew I had built that relationship with my students that I needed, because kids started sharing some really, really powerful things of like this negative self-talk that we have already in third grade. And we were talking about it and we were addressing it, and I was validating, like, okay, what can we do? And this little boy looks at me and he said, "Mrs. Dimmick?" I said, "What, bud?" He said, "Are you telling me that there are other people that feel the same way I do?" And he lost it, just lost it. And it was to the point that I was like, "Okay, everyone just go outside. Let's just take a little break. Everyone take a mask break. Let's breathe." And he came to school the next day, and he was like a completely different kid. Like with our small reading group, he wouldn't answer a question. He wouldn't even read an answer he had written before, because he was so paralyzed with that fear. And he sat down the next day and was talking and expressing his feelings and his thoughts. And his parents emailed and said, "What did you do?" And I said, "We just talked." But there was so much power for him in knowing that other people think the way that he does. I think that it's like that for teachers too. Every school has a few like really, really strong teachers, and they're kind of the ones you look to in the school. And there's power in them saying, "I am actually having a really hard day." There's power in that validating of each other's feelings. Because if you're looking at some teachers and you always feel like they're the superstar and they're like a rock and nothing shakes them, then you start looking at yourself sometimes like, "Oh, what have I done? Or what am I not doing?" There is power in being open enough as a faculty to share what's really going on.
So you offered that boy the validation of his feelings the same way your principal offered it to you the day you entered his office on the verge of tears. It
Yeah.
doesn't matter what age we are. Yeah, we all need the same thing to share experiences. If you could make a list of the things that you need to be successful, what would that list be?
Number one, I need to be able to just be me in my classroom. Some principals want all their teachers to be a certain way, and I need to just be me. I need a good team that I can bounce ideas off of. I need supportive parents that know that I am doing the very, very best I can for their kids. I need kids that are okay to come to school. Sometimes I feel like parents have made them more scared of things than they actually need to be. And I need the people at the district level and the state level to really think about what their policies do for a classroom. I need them to be aware that their decisions, what they think are sometimes are little decisions, make a big impact on what I'm able to do with my students.
If you could reach out to other teachers for help with something in your classroom or that you're dealing with, what would you love to learn from another teacher right now? What's something you wish you could find an expert in?
How to manage doing everything with the 45 minutes less that I have every day. I just feel like everything is so rushed all day long to get stuff done. And I don't feel like I'm doing a ton of extra stuff either. So if there was an expert that could say, hey, this is how you can get everything done in that amount of time, I would love that.
What if the expert said, it's okay to decide to do less and to do less in a deeper way?
I think that's where it comes back to those support things, because I feel like I'm just getting done like the basic expectations. You know what I mean? So, because as soon as we took out that 45 minutes, I took out a lot of extra. And some people would say, well, you do all those art projects and visual art projects and music and dance and drama is not extra. It's an essential part of their learning.
I believe your authenticity will validate the teachers who are listening. I think that courage to tell the truth is exactly what the teachers need right now. I imagine the other teachers feeling just like that little boy. There's other teachers who feel this way. We need to have the courage to dare to discuss and share that this is hard and that we can do hard things when we do it together. So I really appreciate your willingness to be open and vulnerable and let other teachers know that they're not alone.
In our third grade, we do Harry Potter, and Harry Potter is a really big deal. So my third graders are super excited that they get to come and do this sorting, right? We always invite the sixth graders to come back. And this year we invited the fifth graders to come back to be that welcoming committee for these kids coming into their houses. And it was so fun because we've done it year after year after year. This year, we had fifth and sixth graders in our hall all morning because they were so excited that they got to do one normal. They kept calling it, it's like a normal school thing, right? Which was so fun. And so we dress up as teachers. We get all dressed up. We dress up as the characters. And we went walking in, and the fifth and sixth graders were sitting there, and it was like standing ovation, cheering and yelling because they just were so excited. They were so excited they got to do something normal, and they got to be a part of something as a school community that was so good. And that's why we do this. These things, the good outweighs the bad. When we have those hard days, we remember those moments of kids that are 3 years older than the kids I teach, cheering me on as a teacher still, because the difference I made for them They know that I'm making that difference for these third graders now, and they want to be a part of it. And that is a powerful thing as teachers that we get to do every single day.
You are truly magical, and I've seen the work that your students do and produce, and I've seen the emotional literacy that they demonstrate in their artwork and the other artifacts that they create. You are a magical teacher, and I'm really proud of the leadership that you provide at your school and the service you give to other teachers and students and parents in your community. I know that you are a remarkable gift.
Thank you. I feel like I'm the lucky one.
Thank you, Heidi, for joining us. It's been a pleasure hearing from you. I look forward to many more years of watching you in your classroom, and I want to be here to support you, to help make that an easy choice for you. We're here to support and nurture teachers so that they can make the choice to stay in the classroom without extending themselves and their families beyond what's reasonable for them. Artful Teaching is made possible by the BYU Arts Partnership in the McKay School of Education. Thanks to Montgomery Media Arts Institute for the production of this podcast, and special thanks to all the teachers who are changing lives while serving in schools.
If you like what you heard, please leave us a review. You can find all our episodes at advancingartsleadership.com. I'm Heather Francis.
And I'm Callie Phlox, wishing you an artful journey.